All right, here's our next example, example 3 for investigating properties of linear relations. Again, the idea here is to find the equation, and the only two things you need to find the equation are the value of the y-intercept and the slope. So we start off here, a brand new car purchased from a dealership has a price tag of $25,000, and because a car is the worst investment you can make, as soon as the car is driven off the lot, it begins to lose its value. So here we have a graph that talks about the age of the car and the value of the car by age. And the first question here says, what is the y-intercept? Well, again, your y-intercept, we have two axes. We have the x-axis and we have the y-axis. You can see they're labeled there. And what I'm looking at is, when does that graph hit the y-axis? And there it is. We can see it. It's at 25,000. So I'm going to write that in there. All right, now, what does the y-intercept represent in this situation? So again, you look at this point and you go down and you see that, well, the age of the car, that's 0, and the value would be 25,000. So what does it represent? It is the price of our car brand new. The cost of the car brand new is our $25,000. All right, now again, this is a question we've looked at before. Does a graph represent direct or partial variation? And again, that refers to, does your line pass through our origin here, my black dot? It does not. And so because of that, that means we have partial variation. And it says explain. The line does not pass through point 0, 0, which is our origin. All right, D, find the slope of the line and explain what it actually represents. All right, so again, when you're finding slope, you need to use 2 points on the graph. I'm going to use my y-intercept here as one of the points, and in fact, I'm going to use another point here down at the very end. And what you want to look at is your rise over run. So we have to make a right angle triangle here. We have to go up or down, in this case down, and then right or left, which in this case is right. All right, and so when I'm looking for my slope, I need the rise and the run, because we're going to divide them. All right, again, I'm just like for rate of change, I'm going to look at my units. And so I go up to my graph, I start at $25,000 and I move down. Now it's 4 spaces, but really I need to know the value. Well, it went from 25,000 down to 15,000. And the units here on the y-axis are dollars. And so my rise is I've gone down, which means negative sign, $10,000. All right, now my run. So we're looking at run now, because again, we have to divide these two values to find our slope. And I look at my run. I've moved over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 spaces to the right. But what does that mean? Well, actually, I went from age of a car is 0 years over to 4 years. And so the run, even though it's 8 spaces, it actually covers 4 years. All right, so now when I find my slope, I take negative 10,000 and I divide it by 4. And let's see, I got my calculator out here. I'm dividing 10,000 by 4. I get 2,500. But again, it's a negative sign in front. And the units, we have dollars. And guess because we're dividing, it's per. And our units down here is years. So I have dollars per year. There we go. Again, the negative sign because we have a negative slope here. All right, and explain what this slope represents in this situation. Now, our last example was pretty clear. Here, maybe not so much. Well, it says you're losing $25 per year. Well, that is the car loses $2,500 of value every year. Should only be so lucky. Most cars lose a lot more than that. All right, now, again, big key here of what we're trying to look at is the equation of the line, y equals mx plus b. That is the equation of every linear equation, where m is the slope, b is our y-intercept. And so our equation because we have found both of those already. Y equals, well, we just found our slope right here. It's minus 2,500. Then I put an X. And then my y-intercept. Well, I go up. What was my y-intercept, which is called my b value? Again, I'm not sure why it's labeled at 25,000. All right, so positive 25,000. There we go. There's the equation of our line. All right, now we're actually going to use that equation. All right, so use the equation. So I might as well write her down here. Y equals negative 2,500. Whoops, 2,500x. Plus 25,000 plus 25,000. Again, I have a value here. We have an equation. It's got a y and an x in it. So this 5 years has to either be the y or the x. So I look up on my graph, 5 years. Years are on the x-axis. So this value here is telling us that our x value equals 5. There we go. All right, so now I'm going to substitute into my equation. Wherever there's an x, I'm going to put a 5. So I've got y equals negative 2,500 times 5 plus 25,000. All right. Again, following Bedmans, I just continue on. I take negative 2,500 and I times it by 5. And I believe I get negative 12,500. Plus 25,000. And then finally, I put those two numbers together, and I believe negative 12,500 plus 25,000 is actually 12,500. What are the units? What did we just find? Again, we found the y value. What's the y value? The value of the car, because we look on the y-axis here, it's in dollars. And so after 5 years, $25,000 car is now only worth 12,500. All right, now I'm going to move on to G. Use the equation to find the age of the car that has a value of, and I'm going to do double I here, worthless. All right, so again, I'm going to use the equation y equals negative 2,500 x plus 25,000. All right. So when is my car worthless? What does that mean? Worthless. It has a value of 0 right here. That means your dollar value is 0, which means your y is equal to 0. All right. And so wherever there's a y, I'm going to put a 0 here. So I get 0 is equal to negative 2,500x plus 25,000. All right, and I want to solve for x, so I have to get all my x's on one side, numbers on the other. So I'm going to move this negative 2,500x over to the other side here. And when it changes side, it changes sign. So it's now going to be a positive 2,500x is equal to my $25,000. All right, and again, if I want to divide by my numerical coefficient, let's see here, divide by 2,500. And what I do to both one side, I got to do to the other. So I divide my 25,000 by 2,500. And I believe my x value, when I solve, x is going to be equal. Let me see, get my calculator here. We get 25,000 divided by 2,500. Make sure I don't make a mistake here. 10. And again, the units, 10 what? So I go up to my graph on the x-axis. Age of the car, and the units are years. So after 10 years, if you're lucky, your car lasts that long, it would be worthless other than scrap metal. All right, so given our equation there. So again, that's just a rundown of how we're piecing everything together with our y-intercept, finding our slope, using it to find an equation or create an equation or finding the equation for the graph, and then using that equation to find out different pieces of information. All right, again, linear equations, tough lesson. I hope this helped.